My name is Sean Reardon, and this is a video to do with an IEP, so Individual Education Plan, and UDL in terms of that Individual Education Plan. So you might have scanned the code up in the top left of the poster, or you might have stumbled across this video going through YouTube looking for this. So what I'll give you a quick brief overview of what I'll be talking about. So an IEP, I'll be going through what is in an IEP, what it's used for, who it's used for, techniques that you can use to write one out, and then I'm going to be talking about UDL in terms of this. So I'll go into detail about, we'll say, coloring or making it accessible. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll just like this. There we go. So this is the poster. I'll just zoom in here. So an IEP, Individual Education Plan, why and how they are made. So zoom into the first box. So I have this set up with an accessibility setting in PowerPoint. So see in the right hand side here, so there's, if you use text to speech, I have it organized the way I'm going to go through it. If you have, I'll have this linked in the description to a Google folder so that you can access this poster as well. So let's get rid of that. So what is an IEP? An IEP is an individual education plan that is laid out for a student with SEN to support them in and out of school. So that could be in school or extracurricular activities or at home. This is written out and planned with the school, parents, student, and other professionals that would be with the student. The plan is never to be set in stone. When an IEP is written out, it can change and always will change as the student develops. The need to change it will depend on the needs of the student or the use of resources. All of this is focused around the learning of the student with SEN. So, who is used for? As I said, it's about for a student with SEN. An IEP is based around a student when an IEP can be used for any student from when they begin school. However, they are mainly used for students with special education needs. There are many different types of special education needs, and it's difficult to put a blanket around what an IEP should be, but they have their steps and plan. So an IEP is unique to each student, but the layout is similar from plan to plan. And here's some samples of SEN that might require an individual education plan. There are obviously a lot more than listed here, but this is just a few examples. So ASD is one that would require an IEP. So ASD is autism spectrum disorder. Mental health difficulties. Students with mental health difficulties might need an IEP. Specific learning difficulties, intellectual or general difficulties, physical or sensory difficulties, or other language as a primary language would be a difficulty that they might require an IEP until they are comfortable with the language that they're learning in. So what is an IEP, or contents of an IEP? What does an IEP do and what is in it? An IEP is a document that is prepared with the student and other people that will be involved in the student's education, which specifies the learning goals that the student will achieve over the span of time, teaching techniques, strategies, and resources needed, the support necessary to achieve these goals. They also contain the performance and how the student is progressing through the work, and weekly plan schedule for the student. So the process of an IEP, as I said before, it's always adapting. So it's always changing and forever going. It is a constant cycle. So you review the plan, you referral if appropriate. So you give this to professional or people that are involved in with the student. Then you assess the changes and gather information. So you talk again. So you go back to the student or people involved with the student. You write it out into IEP, and then you roll in the new change, and then the cycle may start again. So there's a good image of it here that was shown to us during lecture. So see, you review the plan, you refer if appropriate, then you assess it, gather information, write the IEP, and then implement the IEP. So, as I said, it'll always change as the student progresses because it should adapt with the student, because they're forever changing. They're always going to change in their abilities. So the IEP should change with them. So go on to this. So this is a technique that a teacher can use if they're struggling to write an IEP for a student. So an acronym that's used to plan the aims is SMART. SMART. So S stands for specific. So you need a specific goal for where the student is going or achieving. It must be measurable. So you must be able to assess this goal in some way, or this process in some way. Attainable, if the student can achieve it with their resources and their ability. Realistic and relevant is for R. So realistic would be like, can you do it within a certain time frame? Does the student have right resources for it? Is it realistic to be able to achieve this? And then timely, so you must have a time set for it. So there's no point putting, say, a week-long time frame for something that the student can do in a day, or giving a student a day to do something that might take a whole month. So you must have a correct time frame in relation to the student and their ability and their resources available. So this is just an image of SMART. So it's specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, relevant, and timely. So this is just a nice image to go off of that you can print out if you want. So what needs to be considered for an IEP? So I wanted this in the middle of the page, so it'll kind of be the center of attention, more or less. So the resources and personnel involved must be in it, the needs and strength of the student's current level of performance, the student's priority learning needs, the SMART goals, teaching strategies that can be used. This includes assistive technology, evaluation plans, how the plan is going to be implemented, and dates of reviews of the IEP. So every time you change IEP, they must be dated and signed. So that covers the IEP, and I'll be going to Universal Design for Learning soon. What is a UDL? So UDL in terms of an IEP would be how it looks, more or less, and how you can access it. So that's just to keep it simple. So keep it simple is when you design anything to be usable by everybody, and that is the key point of it, so that everybody can access it in some way. When considering its role in IEP, it is essential. UDL helps make an IEP more accessible for everybody. It can make it easier to understand, which in turn makes it more useful for the student and other personnel that needs to access it. So I got these tips, next 4 or 5 tips from this link over here that I'll show you later. You need to start with a clear goal. So rather than starting a task with a question or description, you can also give them a clear goal or purpose for the task. This will help the student stay on track, and it will help the caregiver or SNA or whoever is helping them to understand what the task is, so they can help the student more. So setting out, it's easy to set a question and description for the question, but it's important as well to show them the end goal and why they're doing it, so that the student can have more of a personal connection with the question or task. Next one is to encourage flexible means to achieve the goal. So I want to emphasize this because you can overdo it in this if you're not careful. So this stage is easily overwhelming for a student. So if a student has a lot of avenues to achieve the goal, they might feel flustered and might not achieve it. So at this stage, it is essential that you have enough to choose from without the pressure of choice. So that seems confusing, but in other terms, say if you have you want to get your daily amount of veg a day, rather than giving a student the whole spectrum of vegetables, you can give them ones that you can get in Lidl, we'll say. Yeah, like you can grab them and go, that they can choose a smaller batch rather than having to go out and try new things and have too much to choose from. It's easier just to narrow it down, that the student will be able to choose themselves. You can talk to them about what they want, and then narrow it down some more so that the student might have a few simple avenues of how to achieve the goals that they're comfortable with, rather than giving them too much to choose from, and then they might feel flustered. So that is important. I did really want to emphasize that. Go up here. Okay, so next one is to ensuring all learners can access the material environment. So designing a resource that all students can use, making sure that all the learners can read the fonts type, size, color, layout, and that is that's accessible through assistive technology like text-to-speech. This also involves audible access during a lesson. So if a student requires assistance with hearing what the teacher or others are saying, then you should discuss this with the student or a specialist to ensure that they can hear comfortably and will be involved in class. So this is why I'm making the video as well, is that if a student or a person has a visual impairment, I'm talking through it. Or if the student doesn't like to read, or the person doesn't want to read this whole thing out, I'm reading it out for them. So and the reason why I have the camera on is to make it more personal. So that is the whole part of UDL, which is what I want to emphasize in this. So there is a purpose for this video. Making the learning more personal, relevant. What I'm doing, what I'm hoping I'm doing. So making the lesson more personal is easy to, and it improves the learning and engagement of the student. By simply making a task more related to the locality or people they know, you can engage students more and they can imagine that person or place in the task, what's being done. So it kind of it triggers something in their brain to be able to relate it back better, and they might engage better with it. You can also apply this by making tasks more relevant to the real world, even linking it to something they are interested in, or can increase the level of engagement. So that's a nice bonus, simple thing to do, which will help. Promote expert learning. So this tip is simply to allow the learner to have a major part in their planning of their IEP. So this allows them to challenge themselves so that they can try to improve their skills. This will help them later in life as well. So like they can plan out their own daily tasks after school, whatever, so that they can progress themselves and develop their skills. So now I'll talk about the QR codes that I've linked in. So for example, for those tips that I've just told you. So if you can scan this code, or I can click this link, it'll hyperlink me to the website, the article that I found all those tips in. So I'll just open it up because I have it open already. So this is just nice. So you can see I got start, clear goal, encourage flexibility. So it goes into more depth. So I just didn't want to add all this text in because I just wanted to summarize it so I don't waste useful, valuable space. So the next two links now or codes are for color correction. So the reason why I have the whole poster in this kind of yellow background is because I found it best to read from. So I have dyslexic friends, and they said that an ivory backing or a yellow backing or some type of yellowish hue background is easier to read from, and black writing. So I took their advice and I followed it, and I honestly prefer this background color because I find it easier myself to read from it now. So it's good to ask people rather than assuming. So I sent this background to my friend, and she found it easier to see. And she gave me the tip to do it in the first place. So if you click this link, so this one brings you to a color contrast checker. So I have it already opened. This one. So this color contrast checker is useful in terms of checking if your text and your backing is appropriate to read from. So this will help with visual impairments or other reading difficulties. This checker will help you. So say if I put my text color in this, so you can click from any color. So I have black writing with a yellow background. So I'll go here. So you can see that it passes the test. But we'll say if I go with a darker background, you'll see that it starts to fail. So it started to fail this one now. This is I haven't. So yeah, it needs a 7:1 ratio, and it's giving you this box here. So it's the background is slightly too dark to read the writing for some people, and the size of writing. So, and you can see that the lower I go, the more fails. The more fails. So this is the darkest background you can go, but ideally you want above a 7:1 ratio, so it's easier to see. But I have it in about this, so I have a large contrast. Oops, I have a large contrast to mine, so it works out better. But you can check all loads of range of colors with different backgrounds to be able to see if your text is appropriate for your background. So then this nicely rolls into the next one. So this is a sample of colors that are appropriate for UDL. So you click that link and it brings you to a blog here. So this person researched appropriate colors, so you can match those colors up with whatever, and it will give you text in a background that will be appropriate for UDL. Yeah, so that's the poster. Hopefully, if you found this video through the link, it should be up in the right here after I'm done. Upload it to YouTube, or if you have me on YouTube, thanks for watching. Yeah, so that is my poster for individual education plan and what's in it and how UDL plays a role in it. Thanks.